I found this story where it shouldn't have been, and once you hear it, it doesn't let go.
The dragon didn't roar when we reached the ruins. It whispered my name from inside my helmet. I'm Mr. D. And before this gets darker, if you want more epic nightmares like this, like, share, and subscribe to Bloody Chapter. Because I joined a heroic dragon hunt for gold, and I learned too late that heroes don't always die. Sometimes they get used. It started in a city that smelled of wet stone and smoke, where the king's banners hung like tired tongues and the taverns were packed with men pretending bravery was a drink you could swallow. A royal herald stood on a barrel and announced the hunt like it was a festival. A dragon nests in the Blackroot Vale. The crown will pay in gold. Glory awaits. And every word was designed to make desperate people feel chosen. I wasn't a knight. I wasn't even a soldier. I was a courier who could run fast and keep secrets. But when the recruiter saw me, he didn't ask if I could fight. He asked if I could carry a torch and follow orders. We need torchbearers, he said. The veil swallows light. That should have been my first warning. The second was the contract. It wasn't signed in ink. It was signed with a thumbprint pressed into wax that smelled like iron. The knights who took me were too polished, too quiet. Their armor cleaned as if they were marching into a temple, not a battlefield. Their leader, Sir Caldron, never removed his gauntlets, and when he spoke, it sounded practiced, like he was reciting lines he'd said 100 times in front of new recruits. Stay behind the line. Do not speak in the veil. Do not remove your helm at night. And if you hear your name, do not answer. I laughed, nervous, thinking it was superstition. Nobody laughed back. We rode out at dusk, torches bobbing like fireflies, and by midnight the road narrowed into a forest where the trees grew so close together their branches tangled like fingers. The air changed there, colder, thicker. It tasted like old rain and metal, and the ground under our horses was soft in places as if the earth had been turned recently. Then we reached the first marker stone of Blackroot Vale, a carved pillar with a dragon sigil. But the dragon wasn't drawn like a beast. It was drawn like a mouth, open, hungry. The moment we crossed it, the torches dimmed. Not from wind, but as if the flame itself was being drained. Sir Caldron ordered the line tighter, and we moved deeper, our horses snorting, ears pinned back. I noticed the map was wrong. The path split where it shouldn't. A stream ran where the parchment promised dry ground, and the stars overhead looked slightly shifted, like the sky itself had been rearranged to confuse anyone trying to escape. A knight behind me murmured a prayer, then stopped, as if he remembered the rule about speaking. We made camp on a small ridge where the trees bent inward like they were listening. Sir Caldron placed 4 torches around the circle and told us to sleep in armor. No dreams, he added softly, almost like a threat. If you dream, you will answer. I couldn't sleep. The forest made tiny sounds all night. Soft clicks. The snap of twigs without footsteps. And once, far away, a wet dragging noise like something heavy shifting its weight. Just before dawn, one of the knights stood to relieve himself at the edge of camp. He walked into the dark between 2 trees and vanished as if the forest had swallowed him without chewing. We waited. Minutes passed, then hours. Sir Caldron didn't send anyone to search. He didn't shout his name. He didn't even look surprised. He simply walked to the spot where the knight disappeared and collected the man's sword from the ground, clean and neatly placed, like someone had arranged it carefully. When morning light finally bled into the vale, it didn't feel like daylight. It felt like the forest was allowing us to see just enough to keep moving. Sir Caldron turned to me and the other torchbearer and said, "The dragon is near. Remember the rules." Then he pressed a small leather charm into my palm. It was warm, like it had been held against a living chest. Carved into it was a single symbol, my own name, written in an old script I didn't recognize. I stared at it, confused. "Why is this mine?" I asked, and Sir Caldron's voice went flatter than stone. "Because the dragon listens for you." The veil went quiet, so quiet it felt like my heartbeat was shouting. And from somewhere deep in the trees, a voice drifted through the mist, soft and intimate, like breath against my ear. "Mr. D." And the metal inside my helmet vibrated, as if the voice was coming from within, not outside. "Don't answer," Sir Caldron hissed. But my mouth opened anyway, not to speak, just to breathe, because the voice wasn't asking. It was claiming. And the torch in my hand dimmed until the flame turned the color of old blood. We marched like prisoners after that, the knights pretending they were leading while the forest decided where our feet would land. Every hour the path changed. Roots rose where there were none, stones shifted, and once we walked in a circle long enough that I recognized my own boot prints, except they were deeper now, like something heavier had stepped into them after we passed. Sir Caldron didn't consult the map anymore. He watched the torch flames, following how they leaned, as if the fire itself was pointing toward its master. The knights moved with a strange discipline, never speaking, never coughing, never even clearing their throats, like sound was a tax they couldn't afford. I tried to swallow my fear, but the helmet made my breathing loud in my ears. And that's when I started noticing the shadows. Not the normal shadows cast by trees. These moved differently, sliding against the mist in shapes that didn't match the branches above. I'd glance up and see nothing in the sky, yet a huge shadow would cross the ground like a wing had passed overhead. One knight saw it to his head lifted, his shoulders tensed, and he did the one forbidden thing. He whispered a name, his own, as if he was reminding himself he still existed. The moment his lips formed the sound, the forest answered. Soft clicking all around us, not from one direction, but everywhere, like teeth tapping in the dark. His torch went out instantly, snuffed like it had been pinched between fingers, and he stopped walking. Not because he chose to, because something inside him decided to freeze. Sir Caldron didn't look back. He only raised 2 fingers, and the line kept moving while the knight stood alone in the mist like a forgotten statue. I glanced back once, just once, and saw the mist thicken around him, bending low as if something huge was lowering its head to examine a meal. The knight's helmet fell off by itself, clattering onto stone, his face pale, eyes wide, mouth opening to scream. But no sound came out, not even breath. It was like the veil stole his voice before taking anything else. The heroic picture in my mind broke completely. This wasn't a hunt. It was a procession. We reached a canyon split where black rock rose like teeth, and in the center was an opening that looked less like a cave and more like a throat. Sir Caldron stopped and finally spoke, quiet and formal. "We have arrived at the lair. I expected heat, smoke, a beast. But the air there was cold, and the smell was wrong. Not sulfur. Something like old parchment and wet iron. Inside the cavern, minerals shimmered like tiny eyes, and along the floor were piles of armor stacked neatly, cleaned, arranged like trophies displayed with respect. I recognized one breastplate, the missing knight from last night, no blood, No dents, just stripped and placed like a gift. My stomach turned. "Where are they?" I whispered, forgetting the rule. Sir Cauldron's helmet tilted toward me slowly. "Quiet," he warned. "It hears questions." Then the torches leaned inward toward the darkness as if drawn by breath. I felt the vibration inside my helmet again. A voice, warm and pleased. "Mr. D, step forward." My feet moved without permission. One slow step, then another, and the knights behind me formed a half circle without being told. Not a battle stance, a ritual stance. Sir Caldron pulled a small dagger with a black handle from his pouch and offered it not like a weapon, like a tool. "Cut your palm," he said. "It must smell you." My mouth went dry. "Why?" And Sir Cauldron's voice finally cracked, as if truth hurt even him. "Because the hunt requires bait." The cavern went still, like the dragon was leaning closer to listen. And in the darkness ahead something reflected torchlight, not scales, not eyes. A smooth curve like the inside of a helmet. And from that curve, my own voice spoke back to me perfectly. "Mr. D, don't run." I realized then what the knights feared wasn't teeth. It was being copied, having your name taken and worn like armor. And as my hand trembled over the dagger, I saw a fresh soot-black mark appear on the cavern wall. A quick drawing of a torchbearer, and the figure's face was crossed out, like the veil had already decided who I would be when this ended. I refused the dagger. I don't know where the courage came from, but it arrived like a slap. I stepped back, shaking my head, and the knights tightened the circle around me with the same calm you'd used to close a door. Sir Cauldron's voice dropped to something almost apologetic. "If you don't bleed, it won't eat. And if it won't eat, it won't sleep. And if it won't sleep, it will come for the city." The way he said city made my blood run cold, because it meant this ritual wasn't optional. It was maintenance. The dragon wasn't a monster to slay. It was a disaster they had learned to feed. The voice in my helmet returned, pleased and patient. "Mr. D, you brought me stories." I hadn't, but then I understood. My fear, my memories, my name. Those were stories. I backed toward the cave mouth, and the stacked armor on the floor caught my foot, clanging loud. Every knight flinched at the sound like noise was dangerous here, and the cavern answered with a deep inhale that made the torches bow. The darkness ahead moved not forward, but open, like a mouth widening in slow motion. I saw no body, no wings, only a shifting absence that swallowed light. And inside that absence, shapes flickered, faces, hundreds of them, layered like reflections in a cracked mirror. I recognized one face. Jonas. No, not Jonas. A knight from the camp, his eyes wide behind a helm that wasn't his anymore. Then another face, closer. My own, staring back at me from inside the darkness as if the dragon had already practiced wearing it. Sir Caldron stepped forward and seized my wrist, forcing the dagger into my palm. "Forgive me," he whispered, and he dragged the blade across my skin. Pain flashed bright, blood beaded, and the cavern air changed instantly, like something had smelled food. The voice in my helmet softened. "Good." The darkness surged not with speed, but with certainty, closing distance without crossing it. And the blood on my hand began to feel cold, as if the cave itself was drinking the warmth from it. I yanked free and ran, because at that point rules meant nothing. The knights shouted for the first time, but their shouts sounded wrong, muffled, like the cave didn't like human sound. I sprinted through the canyon fissure, torchlight shaking, and behind me the clicking started again, not from teeth, but from armor. The knight's armor, clacking like they were being pulled by invisible strings. I glanced back and saw something impossible. Sir Cauldron's helmet had turned toward the darkness, and his body was walking backward into it, as if surrendering. The others followed, not resisting, offering themselves like a line of sacrifices. The dragon didn't chase me. It didn't need to. It already had what it wanted. It had my blood, my name, my face print in sound. I burst out of Blackroot Vale into open forest where the trees were normal and the air smelled like rain instead of iron. I ran until dawn, until my legs gave out, until the city walls appeared through mist like salvation. Guards stopped me at the gate, demanding my name, and my mouth opened to answer. But what came out wasn't my voice. It was calm, warm, familiar. "Mr. D," it said, as if introducing me. The guards stared. "You said your own name," one muttered, confused. But I hadn't. Not really. Something inside my helmet inside me had spoken first. I ripped the helmet off and threw it into the mud. And for 1 second, in the steel curve of its inside, I saw a reflection that wasn't mine. A long shadow face, smiling without lips. Then the helmet's visor fogged from the inside as if something had breathed in it, and the fog formed words in a slow, careful script. "Next hunt." That night, I sat alone in my room, staring at my bandaged palm, and in the silence, I heard the soft clicking again, faint, distant, coming not from outside the window, but from inside the wall. Like something had followed the scent of my story home. If you want more epic horror hunts like this, like, share, and subscribe to Bloody Chapter. Full video on my YouTube channel. And thanks for watching.